Let me preface this by stating that I know I am not a beauty standard, just for all you trolls out there. I am a buxom, middle-aged hillbilly woman who has had a rough life. Grew up working tobacco fields, caring for draft mills, cattle, working farmland, trail riding, cutting trails for trail ride facilities, shoeing horses, halter breaking show cattle, training horses, and having a lot of bobbles and concussions and wrecks along the way. And then I went into psychology in college because it's always been something I really enjoy, and became a counselor and a parole officer. And I did that for a decade until my health finally caved. I have a neuromuscular disorder that has basically broken down my body and my immune system. I have autoimmune issues. I am not the person I once was, and if you looked at pictures from me when I was 15, 16, 17, even through 24, I look drastically different than I do now. Although my husband says I'm still the same person inside. I don't guess you can kill sass. But I just watched Tim Pool's portion of his IRL broadcast from the other day where these three men were discussing why relationships fail. And they were saying relationships fail because women don't maintain themselves. They allow their bodies to go. Men want women that maintain themselves because the men don't want to go out and be the breadwinners and the protectors of families to have this woman just fall apart. He doesn't want to protect an ugly woman. He wants to protect the bride that he married. Well, I have news for you. If he married that bride, then that ugly woman she became after childbirth, labor, stretch marks, 40-pound weight gains and losses with each child, hospital stays, and nights of no sleep, maintaining a home, doing his laundry, getting the skid marks out of his underwear, maintaining the home, and basically having almost every responsibility other than territorial defense cast upon her, which I have that one too because I'm a heifer. That's the same woman. She's just had some stress. And yes, I've seen the women that can have children and bounce back and not look like they have children. I hate them all. Well, I don't hate them all. I love them all, but I look at them and I go, how did you do that? It's impossible. It is just kind of a genetic lottery at this point. I was always a big, very strong Amazonian young lady and hadn't even been to the doctor in 6 years till I had my first child. And then immediately after my second child, lost my gallbladder, started to have issues with my ovaries, my uterus, and started having frozen shoulder and frozen muscles issues, lost my uterus, then the year later lost my ovaries. No, I don't take estrogen because estrogen will make you point blank crazy. I'm fine without estrogen. Literally went back for my 2-week checkup after my hysterectomy and my oophorectomy. And my doctor was like, are you okay? I know we had to stop the estrogen. Are you okay? And I was like, I have one question. Can I go fishing? Am I good to go fishing? He was like, yeah, you can go fishing. I was like, cool, I'm good. And he was amazed. I needed no estrogen. To this day, I don't need estrogen. With the neuromuscular components and the inability to maintain, I used to do a weight routine and really stay active. I've gained weight and my body has changed. I have difficulty walking some days. I have to use a rolly cart. It's kind of embarrassing when you've been the person I've been my entire life to have to rely on a rolly cart. But through it all, my husband married me. He didn't marry the container, the packaging. He married my heart, what was internal, what was entrenched within how I was raised, what I believed intrinsically, and how I logically rationalized the world around me because it was in sync with how he did so. If he had married me for my looks, he probably never would have spoke to me. Now, granted, me and my husband are not beauty standards. He is what I call a Grizzly Adams man. I think he's quite handsome. I call him my lumberjack. I think he's awesome. But let me tell you how I met my husband. See, I married very early. I was raised by a Baptist minister. I was taught that you get married, you have family. Family is the legacy you leave upon this earth. And I married at 19 to a little boy who liked what he saw because I was the epitome of a country redneck girl. He thought I was just it on a stick. We got married at 19. We had 2 children by the age of 21. Yes, did I mention that my current husband, yeah, he adopted my children from my first marriage. Yes, great man. I had 2 children by the age of 21. You want to talk about growing up quickly? I grew up quickly. I had 2 children and a mortgage by the age I could legally drink. Boy, let me tell you, that was fun. And everything in my world changed because my world became these children. These children that I have to maintain and protect and make sure they grow up right. And they're loved and they're secure. And so your attention changes. And if you're parents, your attention should change. Now, of course, you still have to maintain your marriage, which was not a problem. But the packaging changed. I was no longer the very, very, slim, muscular Amazon girl that could rock a pair of Wrangler's boots and a ball cap anymore. I was more of the sundress wearing or leisure outfit wearing mama that was just trying to wrangle two toddlers that were sometimes driving me nuts. I'm just gonna say they were like 11 months and 30 days apart. I mean, they were close. I don't recommend that. Don't do it. The diaper bill alone will kill you. But he began to resent me because I did not look like the person he fell in love with. Even though I was still there, I became a mother, and he did not transition into a father. And so I was so engrossed with these children that I didn't understand when his work started calling him out more and more during the night for outages. Yeah, a few months later, I realized those outages was a woman in Cookeville. If she's watching this, he left her too. I mean, we all knew that was happening. Once a dog learns how to run trash, he'll catch, scent, and run every time. Don't have a dog that'll run trash. You don't have a man that will either. Great words of advice. He's now in his third life and still struggling to construct a solid life. He has no rights over our children. Our children are adopted and now belong to me and my current husband, David. And he signed over parental rights to his second wife. He only gets like 2 weeks a year with his third child, his second wife's child. And now he's helping a third wife raise 2 or 3 kids that she had in a previous marriage. And he's you can see the frustration from 2 states away. Because he's not built anything. He's not been a part of anything. He's ran away from everything. He's left everything. And of course, that's my perspective. He may be happy as a pig in mud, but I don't get that feeling from him. And as soon as the kids became adults, he wanted very much to have contact with them. One of them will have contact with him when they spend time with him, and the other one will not. And I've left it up to them. Whatever they need to do, they're adults. They get to dictate their own lives. It doesn't bother me if they. I had opened the door when they were teenagers. If they wanted to know him. He was going through a lot of issues with his second wife at the time. It didn't work. He seems like the third wife may be a little bit more relaxed about previous marriages and children from those previous marriages, and so she's a little bit more open, which is great. But it didn't work out at that time. And so now my kids are a little bit older. They're both adults, and they seem to be forming their own path with him depending on how they feel about him. He would not pay child support. I was left with 2 toddlers and a mortgage. I tried to work nights at a factory to pay the bills and tried to catnap during the day while watching the kids. I couldn't afford a daycare. I couldn't get into a daycare because I couldn't keep the daycare because it was so expensive. I had very little help. I lived 2 hours away from my family. And his family, while they were devastated at what he did, they were prone to defend him. Which meant we did not see eye to eye on many things, because when I was upset, instead of just trying to help me solve the issue at hand to take care of the children, they would start to defend him, and I would get absolutely livid, because the last thing I needed was someone else to defend a man who had left me and 2 children for Putang. It's just, you can't defend that. He never paid child support. Eventually I moved back to get into my parents' farmhouse to where I could get some aid, because I was going to school full time. And now I was working full time, going to school full time. I was cleaning timeshares and going to school full time. My parents were helping me. He would not pay us child support. The one check I did get from him bounced. And so I couldn't depend on him. Doctor visits, dentist visits, I paid everything. He was supposed to pay 50% or give me back 50%. I paid everything, and I never got anything back. It was just redundant to ask for it, because he would just consistently say, I don't have it. And the one time that he got married the very first day he could, which, I'm talking, just out of the oven into the frying pan. But he got married the very first day he could, and he brought her with her to pick up the kids one of like the 3 or 4 times he got the kids during like a year and a half, 2-year bracket. And I said, well, where's the child support? You're so far behind. I'm dying. I'm taking on everything. and sacrificing everything, and you just don't care. And he's like, oh, I don't have it. Well, okay, I don't get that option to say I don't have it because I have these kids I have to feed. You need to help. And she looked at me and she said, well, you get your child support and nothing else, and that's all you get. And I said, no, honey, if you're going to be a homewrecker, read the fine print. I have 50% of all extracurriculars for these children until they're 18, 24 if they go to college. And no matter if you have 5 kids with him, Tennessee will always say my kids are number 1 and number 2. So if he dies and has $101,000 or some amount in his bank account, and my kids are owed $100,000, then my children will get $100,000 and your child will get $1,000 because my kids are 1 and 2. A few weeks later, he called. My child had had oral surgery before he left. My ex-husband would not tell the insurance agency that I could make the appointments and schedule everything, so I would call the insurance. They would say, you can't do that. He has to do that. But I couldn't get a hold of him to do it. He wouldn't do it. So I had to actually go and get a different insurance for my children. And I actually had to get state-funded insurance for my children. They were tiny. He needed an update on his oral surgery, and he had an active infection. So I did what I had to do to get my son medical attention. I was a single mother of 2 that was getting nothing and working her butt off and trying to better herself and having nothing given to her that was in the contract in the court. And the state said he's not paying child support. I said, he's not paying child support. He's not coming to get them consistently. He doesn't communicate. It may be 4 or 5 months between visits. It may be, I don't know what's going on. And they said, well, that's abandonment. And I said, well, whatever it is, I can't handle it anymore. And they said, well, we will take over your child support and pay for your daycare and provide health care for the children. And I said, well, he's not going to pay it. And they said, well, we don't care if he pays it or not. We're going to take it over, and we will go after him if he doesn't pay it. You won't have to deal with it anymore. It's not your issue anymore. We'll deal with that. I said, okay. So the state assigned it. I just needed my little boy to have his surgery done. He called within just a few weeks. I had been working. He called on a Saturday. At this point, I was remarried. I had moved on. I was starting over. I was done. I had moved on down the road. I had just gotten remarried. And he called. And it was a Saturday, and I was working. And my husband said, well, she's at work. I don't know what time she'll go home. She goes in. I was doing nuclear med transcription for the hospital. After 3 or 4 calls, I finally got home, and he called. And he was like, I need you to sign a piece of paper that says you don't want the money I owe you. I said, what? The child support, the money I owe you. I said, that is no longer my debt. That is owed to the state because the state is taking care of these children with their health issues that I couldn't get you to allow Cigna to allow me to dictate. So there you go. He said, how could you have done that? I said, how could you have let your children not have the dental work done? I mean, he even tried to pawn it off and make his mother pay for it. When he had the dental and health insurance. He had Cigna. And another one for the dental. He just wouldn't allow me to call. And I was like, we have the insurance. And he was like, well, Mom's going to pay for it. Let Mom do it. No, I'm not going to let your mom pay for this. This is something that I'll take care of. I'm not going through you anymore. You're not helping at this point. Just leave me alone. If you're not going to come and actively see these children, just leave me alone. And then he said, I want to terminate my rights. Which he had said the first summer after we had divorced, and I said the state won't allow that. They have to be affixed to a male social security number for benefit purposes, which is true. And he was like, I'm gonna go to prison. And I said what an ex-wife says best. I don't care. You're not my problem anymore. My life is not here to make yours better. Sucks to be you. At that point, I was done. He was not maintaining his children. He was not maintaining his obligations. I was done. It's just all you could say. I was done. And I was done to such a degree. It was hilarious. And he said, well, then fine. David can adopt them. And David grabbed the phone, and David said, I'll take these kids. He said, and I'll raise them. He said, we do an adoption. He said, closed. He said, these kids are mine. And he said, I dictate everything, and you have nothing. To which he immediately said, okay. He said, but I'm broke. You'll have to pay for the adoption. Which we did. We paid for the adoption. Because he didn't hire an attorney. He had 5 meetings to where he could come in and say he still wanted to proceed. He was aware of what he was doing. He had to sign the paperwork, and then we'd have to go and we'd have to come back 5 times. I had to pay for this. The 5th time, I had prepped myself that he was going to walk in and say, no, I can't do it. I've thought about it. I can't do it. I really thought he was going to come to his senses. And I walk in just, just a plain country sack dress, like a denim sack dress, and my husband in work clothes. And he and his new wife walk in a brand new car that also, because we weren't fully divorced when they rode off the lot, dinged my credit when it was repoed. Men, don't do that. Frosted hair, new shoes. And I was like, there's the child support. It's all over them. They're taking care of themselves before the children. Not a good parental look. But I still thought, even though he brought her to this, it's because he's going to renege and say, I can't do it. And everything we paid will be down the drain. But whatever, that's his choice. And inwardly, I kind of hoped he had come to his senses, because I never set out to take the kids away from him. But he was so stupid, and he made so many stupid mistakes, and he was so aggressive, and his wife was such an asshole, that I was like, I can't do this. I can't do this boxing match. It's an emotional boxing match my entire life, and have my babies in the middle. Like, I don't care if you have him in your bed now. He has an obligation to me for these children. And if you think I want him back after what he did to me, you're delusional and don't understand it, because he's going to do the same to you. Matter of fact, I told her that. She's like, oh, you're crazy. Any man will leave a woman that looks like you. And I was like, whatever. You're stupid. And he signed it, like signing a car note. And I cried the whole way back up the mountain. Because I realized at that point, the man I had married never existed, and never loved those babies I gave him. And it broke me hard. To this day, 21 years later, from the birth of our 2nd child, I'm still broken to think that we had those children. And he looked at them as though they were things he could just denounce. That's rough. That's rough. So we moved into a closed adoption. And then his wife started leaving journals all over the internet, painting this picture that we had been separated for months. We never had. And that I was just trying to create this narrative so the children would be toxic toward their father. And I had to hire an attorney and tell her that trying to leave a trail, or indirectly or directly contact a child that had been through an adoption process, was very, very, very dangerous, because she could go to prison. So she had to go and edit all her diaries, which they're still up. They're just all edited. And it's now that, as a 40-something-year-old, I look back and I go, oh, she reads those and realizes how toxic, stupid, venomous, and just naive that she was, now that she's been through what I was been through. Well, fast forward like 14 years, 13 years. I get a call. Somebody's crying on the other line. And she goes, tell him not to do it. Ma'am, you got the right number. Tell him not to do it. Ma'am, who did you mean to call? Because I don't think you meant to call me, because I'm having a chill day here and I don't know anybody's having these issues. Elizabeth, it is. And she said her name. Tell him not to do it. What the crap are you? Decades have passed. What the crap? He's leaving me for another woman. How dare he? Ha 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 ha. Sucks, don't it? I said, you had no compassion for me. Why am I supposed to have compassion for you? And she was like, how can you? And I was like, I can, because I asked you to take a step back and allow him to understand that he was walking away from a family and 2 children that he would have obligations for. And you told me to basically suck it. I said, so suck it. Sucks to be you. I said, I told you to do the same thing. When they learn to do this behavior, they repeat it. I'm sorry, you did this to yourself. She became absolute irate, and I hung up. I said, don't ever call me again, and I hung up. I did feel bad for her, because they had a child that was going to go through the same thing that my children went through. A few days later, I got a call from him. Did you hear what happened? Who is this? It's your ex-husband. Why the hell are you calling me? Well, did you hear what happened? I got a phone call from a very irate woman that you left. Yeah, I just wanted you to know I left her. A decade later, is that supposed to make any difference? Well, I just thought you would think it was funny. Well, I do think it's funny, but I also think it's heartless because you know something? You've got a bad habit. And he left her for a lady he was having an affair with. I said, you have a nasty habit you need to talk about and fix. And he said, oh, I thought you'd be happy. I said, I'm never happy to know that a child is going to go through what my children went through. I said, because we both know you are not going to take care of that child. And I tried, like, my kids were graduating from high school. My kids wanted to get to know him. I tried to kind of be nice and neutral and take a back seat. When he came to the kids' graduation, his ex-wife called me again. How dare you let him bring his girlfriend up there? Listen, I ain't got no dog in this race. If he wants to bring a harem of women up here, I ain't married to him. I don't give a crap. This is your rodeo. If you want to tackle him, you follow him up here and tackle him. I don't give a crap anymore. And she was like, how can you not give a crap? Same way you didn't give a crap 14 years ago. So, suck it. And, it was horrible to watch, but my children realized that he gave more attention to the girlfriend than he did them on my son's graduation weekend. And so my son was like, I don't feel it. My daughter voiced that she didn't want him to come to her graduation. And it was difficult to watch. It was hard to watch because my son completely will not have anything to do with him, thinks he's useless as tits on a boar hog. And my daughter is indifferent, but will profit from him if it suits her because she's in college. My daughter's one of those. Sorry, had a phone call. So, yeah, life progressed after that. The kids kind of got to dictate their own relationship with him. I just kind of said, don't. And I still at times, like, even if I talked to him, I wouldn't really talk to him as a person. I would just be like, let me show you how you impacted these kids. Let me show you how not to impact your third child. Please don't do this to another child. Obviously he did. He signed rights away to that child. He is a non-custodial parent and only has like a couple weeks because he approved for them to move out of state. You know, it's just like, what parent would say, sure, you can move out of state. I don't care if I can access you. I mean, it's just, to me, it just doesn't seem right. But I say that to say this. He has chased this imperfection that is an ideal in his head, rather than accepting the imperfection of a real life that he could have embraced and grown from. And so most men realize this later in life, which I think he's coming to that realization now, that it's better to have an imperfect reality than a perfect fiction. Because that fiction is going to stop. It's going to evaporate eventually. It cannot be maintained. It has no emotional backing. It has no integrity. It has no foundation. And, you know, I was never small. You know, I see these men that want to marry these small women. They're so small. They're so skinny. I'm afraid they're going to fall through their butthole and hang themselves. That's how skinny these women are. Women cannot maintain that as their bodies grow and change. Very few women, like, there's just, you know, the percentage of women that can maintain that body physique is so low. The average women, 2/3 of women in America are size 14 or larger. And it's just because when you do real work and you live in the real world, you eat real food, you raise real families, you are a bit more buxom. And so to see men saying, well, if women want to dictate a standard for men, then they need to maintain this physical standard from us. If they want a financial or protective standard for men, a real woman can protect herself. And I know men say, oh, they can't do it, but no, a real woman can. A real woman can learn how to be self-aware and do, you know, self-discipline herself to do deflective momentum to men that attack. I'm not saying she can hand-in-hand combat take on a man. I'm saying she can possibly earn enough time to save her life if found in a dangerous situation. Now, a woman like me, guys, I'm about 10 inches from a 9mm most of my day because I sent people to prison for 10 years. But real women in real households are home alone a lot because men are on the road earning a living, and they really do take care of the home. They don't rely on men for physical protection. They do it themselves. So I found a lot of what these young men believe to be very fictitious and failing them from a reality standard. And so I just wanted to hop on here and gab for 20 minutes. But I find it very frustrating that feminism has liberated women to the point where we've gone back to, you have to be perfection to be in a marriage or be appreciated. What have we liberated ourselves from? Absolutely nothing. We could have worked out of the home and done all that without all this feminism power and everybody's trying to champion a cooter club in their hometown. It just doesn't make sense to me. Because the power that I have to create life, generate life, create the next generation of the world, raise that, inform the next generation. My God, that's power. That's power, man. That's why you choose a woman, and when she gives you children, she's going to raise those children to affect the world, the planet, in a positive way. You think about humanity. You think about keeping human life sustained with logical, rational people. You pick women that will generate a positive influence on our world. If you pick one for her waist size, you have about as much depth you can hold a raindrop. You drown a stink bug. You're just that shallow. You're just that shallow. So a lot of women have gone through struggles, not relied on men, made their own way, remarried, carved out a decent marriage where I've been married for almost 20 years now. No problems, no qualms. I've changed a lot because of my health, but my husband's love for me has never changed because he married me, intrinsically me, not this. The partner he chose based on logic and heart and integrity is still here, still doing the work that she can. And when my health fails, he understands and he helps. And when I'm having good days, I do more to help him. It's a partnership. It is not a pantomime or some kind of fashion show where I have to look like something. He expects me to hold the house down. And the thing is I was the breadwinner for a number of years. And now that I'm home, he is. It changed our dynamic none whatsoever because we're always 50-50 in everything. And if he's at work, I hold the house down. When I was working, he held the house down and kept the kids. He would, when they were in school for the mornings, he would log. And then he'd get off, pick the kids up, and stay home the rest of the day and work on the house. And I'd come home after working 14 hours and crash because I was the breadwinner. And when the role switched, we were fine with that because we're in it together. And anything I could do in a pair of size 14 britches, I can do in my fat ass britches now. And I just think that humanity is joking themselves if you are saying that the projection of marriages and commitment revolves around physique and physical beauty. You're lying to yourself. And you need to have a real honest conversation with why you think that, the standards you uphold, and why you're probably alone and unhappy. Yep. Just my thoughts, my opinions from somebody that's seen both sides. Hope y'all learn a little bit different. I hope y'all meet a woman that changes your mind about women. And I hope that you understand that women are more than something to throw on your arm or parade around as a prize. We are so much more than that. Mom Liz out.